Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the roundup. This roundup was actually delayed due to some unforeseen things that happened. Um, I am in Clearwater, Florida, and for some reason, I do not have power at my household right now. So I'm in my home office. I have the window open. That's the only light that I have. And this is coming to you live as it can be. But I said, I don't want to delay it again. I don't want to reschedule again. We're going to have back-to-back roundups for the next 3 weeks, including this week. So I said, you know what, let's just make it happen. And forgive me if we do happen to run out of battery power or whatever else happens. But you know what? I don't know. I kind of feel like the power is probably going to come back on before all of that stuff. But I'm so excited and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming. And if you are able to join, definitely tell us and give us a shout out as to where you are, where you're from, and give us a hello. And let's go ahead and let's get started. All right. So this roundup is a bi-weekly, or was originally scheduled to be a bi-weekly webinar on LinkedIn Live, where employers, employees, SMEs, and vendors within the revenue cycle space can network, learn more about the industry from subject matter experts, and just network and share opportunities. That's the thing. One of the goals that I've had for this roundup ever since its creation was to show folks that revenue cycle and HIM is a lot more than just coding. What do you see out on LinkedIn? We need an impatient coder. We need this coder. We need this coder. And that's all great and fantastic, but it's a lot more than coding. And I also wanted to share with you and help you recognize some of the influencers that I see within my network and subject matter experts that are doing big things with the I don't know, the renaissance of folks opening their own businesses is allowing them to go out and start speaking when they probably were reprimanded. I know first as a recruiter, if I wanted to do something like this, they probably would have said no. Bertram, love you, but no, we don't want you out there representing the company. So I said, hey, well, I can represent my own company. So that's what we're doing right now. But yeah, definitely, feel free to comment, give us a hello, Stacy. Thank you for chiming in from Denver. Wow, I can't we're in the 60s today in Clearwater, Florida. I can't believe or imagine how cold it is where you are in Denver. And our mission is definitely also to help 3 revenue cycle professionals get hired. We have 3 hired so far. And for those that are going to be possibly tuning into next week's roundup on Wednesday at the same time, we are going to have our very first Misty talking and speaking with us. And the great thing about Misty is that she got hired without having prior medical coding experience into her first medical coding position. So what we allowed her to do over the last few weeks was to get settled in her role, get going. She had to go through onboarding, and she agreed to be a guest. So our next roundup, I believe it is December 6th at 12 Eastern, 11 Central. We are going to have Misty, an entry-level medical coder, share with us what she did. And I'm telling you, she utilized all strategies. She applied online, she did networking, she was active on LinkedIn, she did a little bit of everything. And there was a strategy that actually the employer used to identify and hire her rather than the strategies that she was trying to use. So I'm going to share all of that with you on next week, Wednesday's roundup. And our challenge is to get to weekly attendees. It's a holiday season. We're probably not even going to come close to these numbers, but that's perfectly fine. If you ever miss a roundup, these roundups are recorded on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube. So you can always go to them and just, refresh or pick up where you left off. And I do believe after they have been sitting for an hour or so, you can actually screen through or go through or fast forward through. So that's also something that you're able to do. Okay, but I believe on YouTube from the time that it's recorded, it's live. You go in the live section on the live tab, it's always there for you. Okay. All right. So today we're going to talk more about not necessarily compliance, but public speaking, how to get started in public speaking, and how someone could be more in the back office on the back side to be more in the front office and be presenting and actually be a speaker. So that we're going to be talking about that today. Going to share a couple of jobs and opportunities. We have our vendor spotlight. And of course, we're going to go over Mr. B, Ask Mr. B section, candidate showcase for anybody that's open to opportunities, and open networking at the end. I do have a client call at the top of the hour, so probably 5 or so minutes. I will not be able to run over today. Forgive me. I love to talk with you. I love to share. I love to dive in deep. Love to ramble as much as we can so we can learn about opportunities and everything. But we're just not going to be able to do that today because I do have a client call. And you imagine what? After that client call, I have another client call. So I have back-to-back client calls that I cannot be late for because our clients are depending on us. The great thing about those calls is that when I have them, they usually end up being more job opportunities for our audience. So let's learn more about our speaker and who we're going to be having today. So today we are going to be speaking with Sarah Ragan. So Sarah is a multi-certified professional, as you can see all of her credentials, and an instructor with the AAPC. She began her career as a medical assistant before transitioning to patient financial services. Okay, so as you can see, she didn't wasn't always in coding, right? And that's the thing. A lot of folks are like, well, I want to get that coding position. I want to get that coding position. That's fine and fantastic, but maybe you need to transition within to something that's somewhat similar, maybe finance, patient financial services, maybe billing, somewhere in there, right? Somewhere where your employer hopefully has coders and then slowly transition over. And she's held the role of currently VP of the Daytona Beach AAPC chapter, previously being the secretary and president. She's a seasoned presenter. She's presented in every state within the US, and she also does in-person speaking as well as various podcasts and online things like this. And she also founded a resume servicing business. So Caffeinated Career Solutions, you can find them on Facebook. You can also reach out to her directly. And that's dedicated to helping individuals, especially those that are newly credentialed or entry level, showcase their professional abilities. So I'd love to bring Sarah Ragan to the stage. Let's go ahead. Oh,
There I
there she
am.
is.
Hey everyone, how are
Sarah,
you?
how are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. It's a little chilly here in Florida, just like you were
Yes.
saying. So I'm wearing my one long sleeve shirt that I own.
I don't necessarily call this the winter season. I call this the bragging season because
I have to
this
admit,
is
it's
when
beautiful.
like we get to really, all of the car guys bring their sports cars out, the Corvettes and whatever they're driving. They bring them out this time of year because the cars love it, we love it, and we have Uggs on. And people are like, "Well, usually wear Uggs in like I don't know, 30-degree weather." Like, no, it's 70. Yeah, the Uggs come out for the ladies.
Yes.
But really appreciate you. And I thought, and I just go back like when I thought about how we connected and how you'd be a fantastic person to be featured on the roundup was that it was like what 2000 2020, we're
I
all
think
locked
it
in
was
place or
2020.
around COVID and stuff, and all of a sudden I connected with Sarah, and I think I spoke at your chapter or so. And
You
then
did.
for you, you were like you started speaking and you started getting yourself out there, and before you know it, like you were or still are one of the people to seek, especially for these APC chapters, if you need a speaker. And Sarah was doing it. I think we just connected and you said you were doing what, like 2 to 3 speaking engagements a week.
Per week. Yes, it was exhausting, but I had set a goal for myself that I wanted to speak virtually to all 50 states.
There you
And
go.
it took me 2.5 years, but I did it.
Congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations. And
you.
I know you have to realize, ladies and gentlemen, like when you get an opportunity to speak, you cannot always choose your audience or the audience size. So for me, maybe I'm a little bit fancy. I'm so sorry, but I try to speak at larger groups. We just want to be able to be impactful as possible. But I've also spoken to groups of 8 people, right? Of 13 people. And are you going to give less to the 8 or 13 than the other group that you had the other day that had 200? It's very interesting, but I also feel like through speaking and the ability to connect with someone offline after that speaking engagement has just been so powerful. Like usually when we're doing content and doing things online, it's just one way. The audience isn't really able. Yeah, they can comment, but they're not really able to interact with us. But when you're having a speaking engagement, you can stop in the middle of the engagement and just be like answer a question or do a live Q&A and just have that very good back and forth. So I don't know. It's really the energy from those things is like a live presentation or live performance. But how did you go from being more in the back office, as you said, right? You're more
Mhm.
like patient financial services to being a coder.
So what happened was is that I was a medical assistant at first, and it turns
Okay.
out that I don't want to say that that was a bad fit for me. I think due to how young I was at the time, I wasn't prepared for how much that would take out of me. I was only 19 when I did that, when I
Wow.
became a medical assistant. And it's kind of a funny story how it all worked out, but I had an interview at a major hospital in Orlando for
Okay.
being a medical assistant. And I went to there. And if anybody knows anything about me, you know that I have no sense of direction whatsoever. So guess what? This girl got lost inside the hospital, missed my interview. And this was before cell phones. I did not own a cell phone at that point. I'm really, really dating myself here. And so I was walking through the hospital, getting lost, just kicking myself mentally, going, Sarah, you idiot. Like, how could you get lost? How could you miss this? And I was really just like, really kind of punching myself internally. Like, you messed this up. You had a great opportunity.
Hmm.
Well, my lack of direction landed me in a job fair for patient financial services at the
Wow.
hospital. They were having it that day. And I was like, well, I already missed my interview. Might as well. And so I just walked in and I had my
Wow.
resume with me, and this was
Wow.
before this was before you uploaded it. I had paper copies of my resume. And I
Wow.
walked in and I was like, can I apply? And they're like, yeah, it's an open job fair. Let me in. And I got hired. And that's how I went from clinical to the back office of the hospital. And at first, I was working in emergency room registration. Didn't really love that.
Hmm.
Um, I still also think now that I'd probably enjoy it more now because I get a kick out of it. But back then, I just didn't have the patience for it. So they ended up putting me in authorizations and referrals. And I was there
Mm.
for 14 years. 14 years. And that was
Yes.
my introduction to coding.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That
that
is
is
so
kind of my
funny.
long story.
That is so funny. I mean, some may see that as destiny, like w whatever job you were hoping to land and interview for probably wasn't for you, but it led you to patient financial services and then, onto the
Yeah.
next and onto the next. Wow. So when
Yeah.
did you get
So
your first hands-on coding position after that job
my
fair?
so I stayed, like I said, I stayed there for 14 years. Once I was
Mm-hmm.
there for about the 10th year, I started thinking to myself, I'm ready to do something different. And my
Mm-hmm.
manager was like, well, Sarah, you're really great at this. You ought to be a coder. And I said, what's a coder? And so
Mm-hmm.
he showed me all of these things. He was like, we'd really love to have a coder on our team. We were
Mm-hmm.
all in billing and not coding. And I said, okay, just you're going to pay for it. I'll do it. And so that was literally why I did it. It took me a while. I was doing the
Wow.
classes while I was working full time, while I was the mother of three young children, one of them on the autism spectrum. So studying only
Mm-hmm.
happened after bedtime. My husband also
Wow.
was at the time an over the road truck driver, so I didn't have any spousal help at that point because he was on the road. And
Mm-hmm.
I literally, my only study time was basically 8:30 p.m. to midnight Monday through Friday, and other than that, I couldn't do anything. So it took me a while to get through it, but I finally did. I wasn't certified until 2014. It took me a while, but then
Wow.
once that happened, it just blew up for me. I think number one, it's probably because I had so much experience in the back office that people were willing to take a chance on me for coding.
Mm.
I even though
Nice.
I was a CPCA for a very short period of time, but my manager wrote me that awesome letter that we all love, and it didn't
Mm-hmm.
last me very long. So I was
There
on
you
my
go.
way. Yeah,
There you go. Awesome. Awesome.
yeah, it
Man.
was great. So
And
I
I think
started.
that hmm
No, I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say my very first coding job, my official first coding job, was in 2015.
Hmm.
And I was certified in 2014. So it happened fairly quickly.
Nice. Very
And
nice.
when I first became certified, I started going to the AAPC meetings, which for us,
Mm.
Daytona Beach. And literally, someone said, hey, you seem to kind of like people. Do you want to be an officer? And I said, what's an officer? And they explained
Hmm.
it to me, and I was like, okay, I'll run for officer. It was when I stepped out of my comfort zone and did something I'd never
Mm.
done before, was when it took off.
Mm. That's when it usually does. That's when it usually
Yeah,
does. And I was having this conversation with myself this morning. Probably too deep for this, but follow me if you don't mind.
I'm here for it.
We're all waiting for folks to help us and to give, right? But just because we need something doesn't mean that we can't also give something else. My wife and I were going through our winter clothes, right? For the kids, and it's like we have a lot of these clothes that they've outgrown, and are we going to need more clothes? Yes, but the same clothes that we're going to buy, we can replace, and the old clothes that they're not using anymore, we can give.
Hmm.
So it's like just because you need doesn't mean that you can't give. And you probably needed so much, you probably could have got paid a lot more, right? You probably could have done a lot more, maybe even gone into management and those different kinds of things. But you stepped up when it was out of your comfort zone. You probably didn't have a lot of experience being an officer, but you still said, you
None.
know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to try my best. I have some mentors and some people. And I like the way that we do it within revenue cycle. Usually, when an officer or somebody gets appointed, the former person doesn't just step away and they're gone for good. They're like, hey, I'm going to step down from the president and I'll be like the vice president, I'll be secretary, and they'll still be pretty active to make sure that the people have they're on their feet for at least a year or so. And then, if they decide at that time to kind of step away, they can do that. And that's the best transition step, versus just cold turkey, like, yep, after the first of the year, I'm gone. It's like, no, this person's always there because unless they're moving, they're still going to be within the
Hmm.
area and they're still going to want to serve. So I always encourage people, try your best to serve, try your best to get involved in your local chapters. A lot of folks are like, well, Bertram, I don't happen to have experience and stuff. I'm like, well, when's the last time you went to a meeting? And it's like, well, I haven't. It's like, well, there are people, they're decision makers in those meetings. And the folks, and it's very rare for people not to just attend, but also participate or step up and take responsibility. So then you get, your light shines again. So there's so many opportunities uh, within that. So I want to go to the comments really quickly because we've had some people chime in. We have Angela that says hello to everyone from Georgia. We have Gemina from Chicago, Rachel from Maryland. Thank you so much.
Hi,
And we have
everyone.
Marissa from Tampa, Florida. Thank you. And Sydney,
So,
earlier I mentioned, from Colorado. And we did
and
have some
Topeka's
feedback from
here.
someone.
Hi there.
Deepika said that, Sarah, you are so awesome. Love your energy, love your spirit, and love to hear you. There you go. And
Thank
that's
you.
why
I
she's
appreciate that. I really do. I try to bring good energy and kindness, and I needed that, and I got it, and
that's
so I want to give the same thing.
there you go. There you go. That's what I'm all about as well. We have Chrissy from North Carolina. We have John just saying, hey, Sarah and Mr. B. We all know who
Hey,
John
John.
is.
Hi,
Thank you,
Christine.
John.
These are all people I know. Hi.
We all know some of the same people. And we have Victoria here as well. So, we can go on and on. Now, if someone was thinking to themselves, and I thought about this about myself, I was like, well, I would love to do something like public speaking. But one, I don't know what I'm going to speak about. And two, I am like overly introverted. I'm not a public speaker per se. I'm not the get the soapbox and hey, give the I don't know the team inspirational speech that's going to help them win the game. I'm not that person. And do I have enough experience or specialty knowledge to speak? Sarah, when you're looking at, and I know some people or officers, their speaker cancels or something happens, and they're like, I didn't plan to speak today, but I guess I got to speak today. Like, how did it
Hmm.
happen for you to actually you stepping out of your comfort zone again, not just being an officer, but actually like start presenting and speaking and being invited to other chapters to speak as well?
Okay, so my story actually starts with March of 2020. That was a fun month,
Okay.
wasn't it?
Yes.
Anyway, I was the president of my chapter, and all of a sudden, boom, everything shut down. And we started having to do everything on Zoom, and all of our speakers canceled. And we have a big chapter in Daytona Beach, Florida. We're over 600 people. And I felt very,
Wow.
very, I, I guess burdened is the right word. I felt very burdened. Like there's people depending on me to get them their CEUs, and I didn't want to let them down.
Mm.
And I started thinking of ways that I could present until we could finally start meeting together, which I didn't know was going to take so long. Well,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that you just were talking about, like, I don't know what to talk about. I didn't know what to talk about either. And what happened was is that I
Mhm.
was sitting at home trying to figure out what I was going to do. And my husband came in the door and he started saying, "Oh, this hurts. Oh, that hurts. Oh, all these things." Well, my husband is a truck driver. And the first thing I thought
Mhm.
was, this guy's a hot mess. I should do something about him. So I started writing down all of the things that he was complaining about. And I said,
Uh-huh.
"Babe, do you mind if I do a presentation based on your life?" And he's like, "You want to make me famous? Okay." So that's really what I did. I said, "Let's talk about this, because this is something I knew a lot about." He had been a
Mm.
driver for 20 years. And
Okay.
because he was an expert at it, I kind of became an expert by proxy, if that makes any sense. I never have done
Yep.
the job, but I
Absolutely.
knew enough. And so I started
Mhm.
doing some research. I started putting it together, and I thought, this will get somebody a half CEU. It's nothing. This is just silliness. The very first time I presented it, it ended up being over 2 hours long. I didn't know
Mhm.
how to put a presentation together. I didn't realize how much time I needed to spend on each slide. All I knew was, I'm going to put this together and just see what happens, because who's going to complain about it? Free CEUs. You either show up or you don't, whatever. You know, what I didn't realize was, number one, that people were going to love it, that people were interested in it. People who, especially who work in primary care or DOT physicals, knew a whole lot about it, or they had family
Mhm.
members that are truck drivers. And so
Mhm.
it blew up. And then it turns out that Rita Genovese was in that meeting for the very first time. She was checking all of us out. I didn't even know who she was. And
Mhm.
she messaged me afterwards and said, "Sarah, that was so wonderful. You need to apply to HealthCon." And I was like, "Well, first of all, who are you? And second of all, are you crazy?" But
Mhm.
I am now come to the point in my life where the crazier something sounds, the more likely I am to say yes to it. And so I said, "Okay, I'll
Mhm.
apply to HealthCon." Because what's the worst thing that they could say to me? No. I've heard no in my life before. It's okay.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
I applied to HealthCon, didn't think anything of it. And then I got the email telling me that we'd been accepted, and I almost lost my mind.
There you go.
So that's
Wow.
it. I took what I knew. I started off small, and I just kept building it. I
There you
didn't
go.
When I was putting together, I didn't think I'm going to do something for HealthCon. I just wanted to put together a half-hour CEU for my members in Daytona Beach. That was really my only goal. But once the goal was met, I kept adding a little bit to it
There you
until
go.
I
There
ended
you
up in
go.
Charleston.
For the audience, and thank you for sharing, Sarah. The best presentations are the presentations that are personal to you or to your family. And when you start speaking, this is where the introvert goes out and the true,
Mm-hmm.
really you, not even extrovert, but the true you comes in. For my speaking engagements, I'll usually have it being something related to something I've gone through or candidates I've helped. And I'm telling you, just all the energy comes out. And yeah, hey, you want to talk for 5 minutes? You're going to be talking for like hours, and it can really
Mm-hmm.
happen that fast. And then you're like, wow, it's so passionate. And people are so receptive to it because why? Because it's you. It's a true story. And you know, for me, I probably wouldn't have been as comfortable with my wife putting my business out there. But you know what? I love your husband's humor and sense of humor, and just like, run with it. It's all good. I trust you. And that's why people love it. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say, even if you are not too sure about what you would speak about, or somebody's looking into getting into more doing speaking engagements, talk to your chapter officers, presidents, and just pitch an idea. Put 10 slides together, and you just kind of go about it by yourself. You can record it by yourself, use your phone, whatever. And I'm telling you, you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna get to 45, 50 minutes easy. And then if you want to have a nice little 10 or so minute Q&A at the end, that's all that it takes. But always putting you and including your story, what you're passionate about within that presentation, is what makes the deal. Because think about it, we can all read the information on a
Mm-hmm.
slide, on a TikTok, on LinkedIn, versus when somebody presents and it's coming from them. Wow, crazy, crazy,
It
crazy.
really, it
So,
really is crazy. And we also, one of the things that I try to do too is that I try to make it funny. and I try to
Yes.
involve the audience. So I actually did my presentation, the truck driving one. I did that one last night in Cookeville, Tennessee. And
Hmm.
I have parts where I involve everybody and ask them questions. Like, as far as, truck drivers, we talk about obesity and how it's a problem for many drivers. But then I spin it around and go, so what's your favorite snack when you're on the road? And let me tell you, everyone has their favorite
Has
road
one.
snack.
Yep.
And so the whole room blows up, and there's that give and take, and it makes such a difference. By the way, mine are
Yes.
double stuffed Oreos.
Yes. Yes. My family's into pre-popped popcorn for some reason. The kids love it. I guess it's light, and we're just into popcorn as a reason. So for me, it would be similar to chocolate, but hey, it's all
hmm
good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Now, you don't only do coding, right? You don't only speak and volunteer and have speaking engagements, virtually, in person, HealthCon, that's not all that you do. But I've heard as of recent that you've done resume writing and you have
Yeah.
a resume writing business. And that is like, with all the speaking engagements, that's also very busy with being a full-time person, parent, right? Soon to be grandma, right? Like you have all of these things going on. Tell us about the resume writing business and why did you start that? What sparked you to be an entrepreneur and go out and do something on your own?
All right. So, for a little while, I was actually working at a local school here in the Volusia County, Florida area as an
Mm-hmm.
instructor, medical coding and billing. And my students were really working hard at trying to, I don't want to say escape, but move from where they were. A lot of people coming from retail, waitressing, hotel, motel, that's big here in Florida. And they were
Yes,
going to school
hospitality.
to be medical coders and billers. And then, boom, it just stopped. They weren't getting interviews. They weren't able to move on. And a lot of my students were frustrated. And they were saying, Miss Sarah, I am applying to all these places. I don't know what's wrong. And so I said, well, let me look at your resume and see. Maybe I can give you some tips. And when I saw their resumes, I was like, oh no. I'm like, okay, I have an idea of why you're not getting that call back, because as smart as you are and as talented as you are, your resume
Mm,
does not show who you are. And so I
that's right.
said, let me help you with this. And I started moving things around. I started doing some research, and boom, they started getting interviews. Now, they don't always get the job. Don't always get the job
Correct.
because there's other forces there that I'm not aware of, whether, I never promise anybody a job. But what I do say is
Hmm.
that, let me look at what you've done. Let me rearrange this so that way it's more visually presentable. And let's see if we can make a difference in if you get picked for at least the interview. And
Yes.
it started making a huge change for them. And they're like, the same words are there, but somehow you changed the sentence structure, you changed the formatting, or you changed the font. I was like, please don't use a
Yes.
script. Don't use script. Things like that you hadn't thought of. You're like, oh, it looks so pretty. It might be pretty, but no one can read it. So, it was and
Yeah.
I started helping, and my husband said, Sarah, you're helping lots of people work on their resumes, and this is a real talent that you have, and you shouldn't just sit on it. And I really thought about that. And I know that he has my best interests at heart, and he would not
Hmm.
encourage me to do something that would be terrible, or basically that I would suck at, let's be honest. And so I did a couple of freebies just to see, like, hey, can I do this for you and see if it works? And when I did the freebies, everyone came back to me and said, Sarah, I got an interview, or Sarah, I got a new job, or Sarah, I got a promotion. And my husband's like, you really need to step up on this. So I did. And that's how it
Nice.
started. And I started it about a year and a half
Nice.
ago. And it has been a blessing to my family for sure. Um, I really love doing it.
Wow.
I
Awesome.
love getting those emails from my clients saying, I got the job, or I didn't get this job, but I went through 2 interviews and they said that I didn't get this one, but
Hmm.
they're going to send me over to another one. And I was like, hey, that's great.
Nice.
So I especially also love helping the CPCAs. I really do. Like,
Mm.
I love helping upper tier. I don't want to even call it tier. That's not really the right word. But people who are already in management and director level, you're awesome. I know that, but you don't need my help as much as that person who has had enough of waitressing.
Yeah. Yep. So the right resume can definitely make the very good difference. And one thing I've always shared with people is even after you have a really good resume, bounce that resume off other people that are high up, even if it's a totally different industry. Because that's what
Mm-hmm.
a friend of mine I went to school with, he's like, hey, send me your resume. And it was a totally different industry, but his boss looked at my resume because he wanted to see like, hey, how's his resume looking and stuff. I guess he kind of knew something. He was an engineer, and his boss's feedback to me was like amazing. And then I'm like, oh, this is a thing I can do. And then I pass it on to another person. I pass it on to another person. And you have to also realize a lot of us have a resume and we put it on the shelf. And it's more something that should evolve over time. Your resume needs to kind of like morph and change. You need to update it and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what's going on with my screen. Maybe it's my battery life. So
I don't know.
anyway,
Maybe your power's
that
coming
is
back. That would
awesome.
be
That is
nice.
awesome. I don't know. The lights are not on, but I am hopeful and
I'm
praying
hopeful
as
for
well.
you. At
We
least
have
it's not
a
hot outside.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Catherine chimed in and said hello. She apologizes for being late, and you're never late. You're right on time.
Mm-hmm.
And
And hi
I would
to
love to
LinkedIn user.
yes, and I'd like to just share with everyone how they can get a hold of you, because we're only gonna have okay.
I'm not
That's not supposed to
Jennifer.
be there.
That's
No, I
okay. I
updated
love
this. This
Jennifer.
is wrong.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I love her, so it's fine. I'm like, yeah, put me
Apologies,
right up there with
apologies. So
Jen.
Sarah's contact information. So if you happen to need a speaker or resume writer, my apologies, everyone. Definitely reach out to Sarah on LinkedIn. She's also on Facebook under Caffeinated Career Creations for your
Mm-hmm.
resumes. Also, you have Sarah Ragan 515 at yahoo.com. So feel free to reach out to her. Apologies. Jennifer was this last week, or the week
We love
before,
her.
and Sarah's here today. Yeah, well, we love Jennifer as well.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I updated that, but it was probably, yeah. Anyway, man,
Maybe when
so
your power died.
yeah. So what would you say is the next step for you with everything that you're doing? Because you're speaking a lot. You have a grandbaby on the way,
I
right? You
do. I'm so excited. I'm
you
going to
have
be
a
a
business
grandma
that
in
you're
February.
yes, you have a well, not your family's only growing, but you have a business that's growing as well. So that's another
Mm-hmm.
baby that you have. And you have your husband that is sounds like is he still truck driving, or is he transitioning out
No,
of that?
no. So, part of the presentation that I do with the truck driving discusses the injury that he suffered that ended his career. So
Oh,
he is no longer able to drive semi trucks. Now he teaches people how to drive semi trucks.
wow. There you
So
go.
he made the transition, and so we get to actually spend time with each other now. So we're learning still how to do that because we spent most of our marriage only seeing each other once a month. And so
Wow.
that's been kind of funny, but we're looking forward to becoming grandparents. We are looking forward to spending some time with our new grandson who is due in February. I do
Yes.
plan on taking a little bit of time off at the beginning of 2024 just because I want to soak up every minute, you know?
Yep.
I don't want to miss a thing, just like that song, Aerosmith, gotta love it. And
Yes.
in the second half of 2024, I'm kind of hoping that there might be some local chapters out there that would like to have an in-person career seminar. I'd love to come
Mm.
out. I actually created a 6-hour seminar. So,
Wow.
but that's one, honestly, I've tried to do that one online. That one's a little tough. It's hard to get people to sit still for 6 hours, and I really don't blame
Hours.
them.
Yes.
But I like to travel. I live very close to an international airport, and I would love to see more of the United States, just like my husband did while he was on the road. So,
There you
if
go.
your chapter wants an in person career seminar, send me a message. I'd love to talk to you for the end of 2024. I feel like um, doing this in person and meeting people where they're at and being able to hands on assist instead of everything being virtual,
Virtual. Yep.
probably my next step, I think. I love doing things virtually. Don't get me wrong. I am a homebody. I love working from home, but the
Mm-hmm.
idea of traveling and meeting people is exciting. Okay, so
Yes.
Topeka just mentioned the Peoria chapter. You want to hear something? I've never been to Illinois in my life. So I'm just saying.
Yes, yes, yes. And I'm right with you. So in 2020, I had over 30 speaking engagements, and now that everything is kind of back to some sort of normal, I'm putting myself out there for more in-person events, and I already have two booked for next year,
That's
and I know that
awesome.
that's going to happen. But I think probably you're experiencing the same thing that I'm doing. Now we're having a hard time transitioning people back to maybe doing something in person. I don't think that the online is ever going to go away, almost
I
like some
hope
church
not.
services. They'll be like, "Hey, you can come and sit in our pews, or you can watch online." We're probably going to have that.
Hmm.
That way you're still able to interact or ask questions and all those kinds of things. But definitely for those that are able to connect, sit down, have a meal, see the white of somebody's eyes and all of those things. But I'm also looking forward to having some more in-person events. Yes, maybe a little bit more costly. Yes, maybe you need more time than just getting a sitter for a couple hours, those kinds of things. But I can tell you, I haven't had an in-person event, even if I wasn't speaking, right? Just sitting down and being a member, or taking it in, being as a guest. There hasn't been one that I haven't had at least one fantastic relationship that led to
Hmm.
something fantastic down the road, and just putting it all together. Also, I love to run into people at these events. So, I was at the Florida HEMA, and like, okay, I'm just walking around and like, Bertram, hello, who are you? And I hired this person for a job. I didn't realize, but at the time, she was a new mom. So she really wanted to be home so she can have a,
Hmm.
a good transition with her kids and all of this kind of stuff. Of course, the kids weren't home, but just going
Right.
to daycare and all of that stuff, being from home versus being in office, and she had a long drive, and she shared all this with me, and she would have never told me because she didn't want me to hold that against her for her new opportunity. But the thing was, is like I wouldn't have gotten to know that and how impactful that job would have been for her if we didn't meet on site or at that conference. So
Right. And I have
definitely
to admit,
looking to do that.
I love going to the conferences. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. And it's funny, you've mentioned introversion several times. People don't believe me when I tell them that I'm an introvert. They're like, "Oh, well, you're
Yeah.
so bouncy and bubbly on here and all those things." And I was like, "That's true. I am." But after these meetings, sometimes I turn off the camera and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so tired."
Yes, 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 yes,
I
yes.
sometimes
Takes a
just
lot
I
out of
need
you.
it does take a lot out of me, but it's also the part that comes out of me is the best part. And I love
There you
doing
go.
it.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I love those
So
fall back together events.
yes. So Topeka talked about the fallback events. Catherine says that, all right, I congratulated you, Catherine. So newly elected secretary of her chapter, and she may think of both of us for in person. And the nice thing is that a lot of speakers know also a lot of other great speakers as well. So if
Hmm.
we can also connect with you with any speakers that are in our network, we will definitely love to do that. All right. I think I gotta go well, we gotta go because I am
Hmm.
seriously running out of battery life. And I don't just want this to die. We're at the 38th minute. Sarah, really love and appreciate you. I know we're gonna be staying in touch.
Yeah,
Everyone, if you
you're
haven't
just down
connected with
I-4.
Sarah already, yes, if you haven't connected with Sarah already, please send her a connection request, and all of those things. So, Sarah,
Yep,
we
I'm
really
on LinkedIn.
appreciate you.
Please feel free. I'd love to connect with everybody on LinkedIn, and you know, even if you're not in the industry or if you don't need a resume right now, I still would love to connect with you.
There you go.
It's the networking for me. It really is.
There you go. There you go. And that's the thing. I always ask people and tell people things like a resume, it's best to have it ready when you don't need it. Because when you
Hmm.
need it, or when there's a big market shift and everybody needs it, then you get lost in the shuffle. So definitely
That's
connect
true.
with Sarah, even if it's not something immediate. Connect with me as well, and we would love to connect with you. Thank you, Sarah. We're gonna
Absolutely.
let you
Oh, thank
go.
you. It's really
It
good
was
to
great
see
talking
you
to you.
again. Yeah.
All right.
All
Talk
right.
to you later.
Thank
Bye
you
bye.
guys. Have a great rest of your day. Stay
Yes,
warm.
we will. Bye bye. All right, so I'm going to speed up because battery life and time for my next client meeting. Here we go. So I have a couple jobs to share. We have Samantha Champagne. She's hiring for a director of payment, payer reimbursement. So if you have this type of background, connect with her and you can apply to the job. Also, Sarah is hiring for a CDI specialist with an RN. So this is an open position. And this is the thing, even if, let's say these positions are closed, right? Because I got these positions a week or so ago. Thanksgiving happened. It's what, Wednesday, right? But these are hiring managers, and these people are likely going to have other hiring positions and opportunities. So definitely connect with them. The vendor spotlight, we are still promoting the qualified because I love what they do. I love their vision. They're a local business to us, and they help not just with CEs, but if you're looking to get certified. So, a HEMA credentials like the CCS, looking at your CPC, you need some workshops or you need some training around it, they can help you with that. Okay, so definitely reach out to the qualified, mention us, and you should be able to get 10%. All right. Ask Mr. B today is how can I land a management position but have only had team lead experience? Person I connected with as a recent, they thought that the resume would help them land that position. Resume is fantastic, but I'm telling you, it's a lot more than just resume. A lot of the times you need to talk with a mentor or you kind of need to know how to present yourself. That's where some coaching can come in and really help someone. But what I always tell people, and even if this is like, let's say you're applying to a coding position, you don't have any coding experience, you have to lead with what you know. For example, if you know the position requires X, X, and S, let's say leadership, talk about when you led. It can be within a church group, it can be within a sports group, it can be at the YMCA, but when did you show great examples of leadership? Because just because somebody's a manager doesn't mean that they manage people. Just because somebody's a director doesn't mean that they direct people, right? Titles don't necessarily mean anything, but sharing examples with those hiring managers and being able to communicate that through your resume, that's what's going to help you at least land that opportunity to speak and share more about you. I'd also say having that resume is fantastic. Make sure your LinkedIn is built out as well, because what are we going to do as hiring manager? We're going to go and try to find you. We're going to see your LinkedIn. So making sure that a lot of that information and experience is also showcased on your LinkedIn profile as well. Okay. So if anyone is open to sharing that they're open for opportunities, feel free to go ahead and share your background, whether that's your name, your skill set, inpatient coder, so on and so forth, and email address, contact information, city and state that you're in. Feel free to do that. And our next roundup, as I mentioned, is next week, Wednesday at 12. Fantastic thing about that one is that we're going to have Misty, who's an entry-level coder who just got hired off of utilizing some steps and strategies mentioned here on the roundup or when she was one of our first attendees. But the nice thing about Missy as well is that her hiring manager employed some strategies to find and identify her as being the right person. So next week, Wednesday, you're not going to want to miss that. So I'm out of battery life. I got to go. I really look forward to seeing you guys and audience next week and the week after as we have our next two roundups to end us out for the year. And I'm already in talks for speakers and subject matter experts for next year. So next year, I don't know, we may just need to like transition to weekly because there's just so much that you guys can learn from the audience and the network that we have. And also in doing these roundups, I'm meeting additional people I love to showcase with you. So love you guys, really appreciate you. Hopefully you and your family had a fantastic Thanksgiving. Let's clear out and clean out the holiday season on a good note and enter 2024 being renowned. This is Bertram. Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.